Welcome to the Quarantine Spook Show. I'm Kerezsi. I'll be playing some improvised horror stories this evening, and it's a special episode from the previous ones, which I'll get into after the first story, but I'm just gonna get this ball rolling. This one's called Premium Saltines vs. Cheez-Its. Lenny was having a smoke outside of his job. He worked at the marketing firm for Premium Saltines. You see, his marketing firm worked on behalf of Premium Saltines. His job was make sure that the marketing campaigns for the snack food was eye-catching and attention-grabbing enough for people to eat those sweet, delicious saltines. But his job working with the Premium Saltines client eventually became harder, as he was figuring out less inventive ways to have the Premium Saltines appeal to other people. People complained they were too stale, not salty enough. Just like dried flour that you dip in things. They didn't even really complement the flavors of other things. So Lenny smoked that cigarette outside of his marketing firm's corporate office, pondering Premium Saltines. Wondering how he can get those saltines to the tippy top. As he smoked this cigarette out in front, his other friend Bruce also came out, and he smoked a cigarette of his own. "Oh, hey Lenny, how's it going?" And Lenny said, "Oh, hey Bruce, what's up?" You see, Bruce was also in a marketing firm, in the same corporate office, but his client was Cheez-Its. Now, Lenny knew that Cheez-Its appealed to people more than Premium Saltines. But yeah, Lenny asked Bruce how his day was going, knowing that it was going much better than his. And then Bruce said, "Oh, just been pretty good so far, had a lot of luck with the marketing campaign, going with Cheez-Its and whatnot, They fit a lot of cheese in one cracker, They gave me a lot to work with." And then Lenny said, "Yeah, I'll bet," he said with a minor taste of scorn. But you see, Bruce wasn't at a better disposition than Lenny, because his marketing strategy for Cheez-Its was more successful than the premium Saltines marketing strategy. You see, Bruce wasn't someone that didn't filter his existence through his marketing firm work. It was just a role that he did for a decent paycheck. Whereas Lenny put all of his reasons for existence onto the marketing. Which anyone could tell him that it was a dangerous road, spiritually. And Bruce would have told him that if he had any idea how obsessed Lenny was for getting premium Saltines on the map. So they continue to chat, and Lenny's just like, oh yeah, Cheez-Its are really great, premium Saltines, not so much. And then Bruce was just like, well, I usually eat them with ramen, And Lenny said, oh yeah? And Bruce said, yeah, whenever, the only time I eat premium Saltines is if I make myself some ramen, cooking the meat and the vegetables and using proper broth and all that. And then when I finish the platter, I just have a short stack of Saltines with me, so I can use the Saltines to dip into the ramen and then scoop out the noodles instead of using a utensil. And then Bruce said, yeah, it's as if, the Saltines are a utensil of their own. And then Lenny said, yeah, it's pretty good. You're full of great ideas, Bruce. And Bruce said, oh, well, thank you. You got some good ones yourself. And then Lenny said, oh, yeah, right. I mean, the only thing I've really thought of is, trying to fill the premium Saltines with cheese, but they wouldn't go with that, The Saltine company I work for has a strict stance of not adding cheese to any of their baked goods. And then Bruce said, oh, well, that's okay, Saltines are still good. And then Lenny was just like, yeah, but are they really, though? And then Bruce just said, well, I like them. I think they're okay, Sometimes I make little cheese sandwiches with them, And then Lenny said, it seems like you use them for everything except for crackers. And then Bruce said, well, it's just trying to make the meal more enjoyable, Really our jobs is just to, show how our food can be appealing to other people, And then Lenny said, yeah, I guess. Bruce said, oh, this is my last cigarette. Let's go to the corner store across the street. I want to get a new pack. And Lenny said, yeah, alright. And upon entering, they could hear a microwave beeping from the outside, Someone was cooking a zesty burrito and all that. So Bruce was getting his cigarettes. Lenny was looking at the snacks. He saw the premium Saltines next to the Cheez-Its. So at an impulse, he bought a pack of Cheez-Its and a pack of Saltines. And then Bruce said, oh, you're gonna have some snacks? And then Lenny said, no, I'm gonna purchase most of these snacks for research. And then Bruce said, oh, well, don't they just give away free Saltines in the firm? And then Lenny said, yeah, well, it's more in the moment this way. I gotta feel like a consumer when I eat this stuff. And Bruce said, yeah, I think maybe that's a little bit overthinking it, but, whatever works. So, that evening, Lenny brought the Saltines and Cheez-Its to his studio apartment. And then, set some space up on the floor, and then just laid out all the crackers on it. tried to analyze them, to figure it out. Now, the challenge wasn't figuring out why Cheez-Its tasted better than premium saltines. He knew why. They were so cheesy. His challenge was to make premium saltines more appealing than Cheez-Its. The ultimate challenge. Impossible indeed. You know, he watched a YouTube lecture, not a YouTube lecture, but a lecture from someone who studied snack foods on YouTube. Not someone who went on YouTube claiming to know things. There's a big difference. But he watched this lecture recording on YouTube, and he was talking about Cheez-Its, about the snack foods. And he said that Cheez-Its find a way to take the common denominator of all cheese flavors, the singular unifying, delicious cheese flavor, centralizes it, and puts it into one cracker. And Lenny thought about this, and he was like, damn it, he's right. So he had the crackers, both the Cheez-Its and the premium saltines, spread out all over the floor. He tried to experiment with them, tried to get into the mind of a child to figure out the appeal of saltines. He tried to make a little house of cards with the saltines, tried to nibble on them so they could be jigsaw pieces. Figure it out. He tried to make saltines seem sexy somehow, but it was a borderline impossible task. He tried to do different things with the saltines, you know. Tried to eat them as crumbs, but they weren't as good then. Made some soup and then dipped the saltines in. He was like, well, that's okay, but people already know that you can eat it like that. He was just like, no, saltines, not only do they have to be sexy, but they have to appeal to the upcoming generation. The next generation must perceive saltines as the ultimate snack food. Sexy, sexy saltines. Oh god, sweet, sexy premium saltines. Super sexy hot saltines. Then he realized he was pleasuring himself to saltines. And that's when the idea struck him. So the next day, he goes to the office, goes to his employer, who's already very frustrated about Lenny's work, for the lack of trying to make saltines appeal to the youngsters, appeal to the hip crowd and all that. So he calls a meeting with his boss, and he's just like, alright, what do you got for me about these saltines? This a lost cause or what? And Lenny said, oh, well, you know, I wouldn't call it a lost cause. And then his boss said, yeah, well, you know, our boss gave it to you because he didn't like you at all, and gave you the saltines duty because he knew you couldn't make them sexy. And then Lenny said, oh, I made them sexy. How about this? We get in touch with pornographic markets, and then have them pose with the saltines. And then his boss is just like, what? And it's just like, yes, if we want to make saltines sexy, we have to attribute sexual acts to the saltines. We can advertise them in Playboy and so forth. And his boss is just like, yeah, well, is Playboy even a porn mag anymore? I don't know what they're doing these days. You know, since Hugh Hefner died, no one really knows where that magazine's going. Are they rebranding, reinventing themselves? And then Lenny said, don't worry about Playboy, it's not about that. We just have to make saltines sexy. his boss is just like, alright, well, if you want to schedule a meeting about it, we can run it upstairs or something. And then Lenny said, oh yes, it'll be superb, the sweet, sexy Saltines. And then his boss said, Lenny, are you trying to make Saltines sexy? Or are you turned on by Saltines? And then Lenny said, no, I'm not turned on by Saltines. And Lenny said, well, it's okay if you are. I don't want to kink shame you. But I'm not sure if your personal eroticism towards Saltines could really apply for this marketing campaign. We can try to work with you and see if we can switch you to a different client or something, so you can have a fresh set of eyes or something. And then Lenny's like, no, I must stick with the Saltines. They are the best cracker on earth. And then the boss said, well, you just said they were really, they weren't so great and hard to work with. And then Lenny was just like, well, I didn't quite say that, And then the boss said, when you were first given Saltines as the client, you said they always tasted stale, they didn't have flavor, and they were never salty enough. They're not like Ritz, they're not like Cheez-Its. You said it was a lost cause to make Saltines appeal to anyone of this century. And then Lenny said, no, but I love Cheez-Its. I mean, Saltines. And his boss said, you're Cheez-Its, I don't understand. And then Lenny said, I gotta go. So he just leaves the office building. And he storms out. He tries to get lunch down the block at a food truck, and he just sits on the bench and contemplates. And he's just like, oh, what's going on? I'm just having all these cracker obsessions for some reason. I've grown this obsession with Saltines, and and Cheez-Its, which I think Cheez-Its are okay, but I don't even eat snacks that often, so I'm just doing this for work. I don't understand. The spiritual center was out of whack, obsessing over these crackers. So, running out of ideas, he calls Bruce. And then Bruce said, hey, are you outside smoking right now? And then Lenny said, no, I'm just really out of whack, thinking about this Saltine Marketing campaign and, all these Cheez-Its and crackers and square-shaped snack foods. I'm freaking out about it. I'm obsessing over it. It's consuming all of my thoughts. And I don't know what to do about it. And then Bruce is just like, alright, calm down, take a breath, I don't have it long to chat on the phone. But it sounds like you're really stressing out about making Saltines hip or sexy, or trying to at least appeal to any sort of food market. And then Lenny said, yeah, I guess that's what it is. So then Bruce said, well, how about, since you're being obsessed with Saltines, why don't you just figure out what you're obsessed about them? Figure out why you're obsessed and use that obsession as a marketing tool. Try to awaken that obsession of Saltines in other people. And then Lenny's just like, okay, yeah, that can work. Yeah, I'll do that. Actually, you know what? I got another idea. So Lenny then drives to the Saltine plant on the outskirts of the city. He goes to see the boss. There, the CEO and the foreman of the cracker factory. And then Lenny meets both of them, and the CEO's just like, yeah, what's up? And then Lenny's just like, yeah, I'm just, you might have met me. We've talked on the phone before. I'm working with a marketing firm to try to make Saltines sexy. And the CEO's just like, Saltines aren't very sexy. And the foreman's just like, no. And Lenny's just like, alright, well anyway, I'm trying to, make them appeal to the next generation, They should be the snack food, the way animal crackers used to be. The CEO's just like, alright, that's good, and that's what we paid you for. And then Lenny said, yeah, but, I need to get to know the crackers very well. I need to know these snacks. And the CEO said, I don't know what you mean. And then the foreman steps forward and he's just like, I think I kind of know what you mean. Here, I got something to show you. You can come too, he said to the CEO. So the CEO and the foreman and Lenny are all walking down a long hallway full of these tall portraits of previous owners of the Premium Saltines company. It's one company called Premium Saltines. They sell saltines. That's a tongue twister. Now's not the time for that. Anyway, so they're walking down the hallway. And they reach the door. The foreman opens it. And it's a very dusty room with file cabinets and shelves and papers and whatnot. And then the CEO said, oh, it's this room. And then he said, oh, what do you mean? And then the foreman said, well, you know how Saltine started, don't you? And then Lenny said, no, I don't. And then the foreman said, well, I'll show you this newspaper article right here about a saltine factory getting shut down, but I'll explain it to you. You see, during the late 1800s, you would still have some snake oil salesmen roaming the countryside trying to sell their BS for some coin, but there are also hypnotists as well. And some of them were phony. Some of them tapped into early versions of how we see hypnotism in psychology, and even in graphic design and advertisements as well. But some of them figured it out. They found a way to hypnotize people on a consistent basis. And it can make anyone fall for the saltines. And Lenny said, what did you say? And then the foreman said, you're right. You heard me right. In this newspaper article I'm holding here, take a look at the shape that the hypnotist is using to hypnotize people. And then Lenny looked at it, and it was a square with several holes in it and a couple of bumps on it, and some markings on it that could have looked like salt. The shape he was using to hypnotize people had a striking resemblance to saltines. And Lenny said, no, that's ridiculous, I thought hypnotism was like circular or like a spiral or whatnot. And the foreman said, no, these squares with little dots in them are the most effective way to hypnotize people. That's probably why you're obsessed with saltines right now, coming to the factory trying to figure them out. There's nothing to figure out about saltines. But Lenny said, no, it's impossible. And then the foreman said, yeah, it's not impossible. In fact, think about Cheez-Its, They have the square, but the one dot on them. And Lenny said, but I thought those little holes were to poke at the crackers so that air could be released from them as they're being baked. And then the foreman laughed, ha ha ha, lies and deceit. No, it's a deliberate marketing design by cracker manufacturers for decades, if not centuries. if that's true about premium saltines, how come nobody likes them? And the foreman laughed again, and he said, have you ever had a premium saltine? And then the foreman said, I'll tell you what. So he goes into his pocket and had like a little pack of saltines, unpackages them, and he says, here, eat this with your eyes closed. Lenny takes a bite, and he's just like, oh, yuck, what is that? He's like, it's the saltines. And then Lenny said, yeah, but they seem like they taste a lot worse. And then the foreman said, exactly, that's how we stay in business. We got the shape down to hypnotize people just enough so they eat them sometimes with soup or cheese or, you know, whatever. So then Lenny said, so the only real way to make saltines appeal to the masses is to just make them taste better. And then the foreman said, alright, I think it's time for you to leave. So then Lenny is escorted out of the factory, learning not what he expected to learn, but still learn enough about the duty at hand. So he went back to work the next day in deep ponderance. And he was thinking about saltines and Cheez-Its. And he's just like, alright, so saltines are visually hypnotic, but they don't taste good. Cheez-Its taste good, but are not visually hypnotic. And then he has an idea. He goes to the marketing firm with the Cheez-It client, has a meeting with the boss there, and Bruce is in the room too. And Bruce says, Lenny, what are you doing here? And then Lenny said, shape the Cheez-Its like saltines. And then Bruce said, what? And then Lenny said, that's right, if you shape the Cheez-Its like saltines, people will be obsessed with them because they'll taste good and they'll be hypnotic. And then Bruce said to his boss, don't listen to him, you know, he doesn't know what he's talking about, they're not hypnotic or anything. And then Lenny said, no, it's true, you can look it up in old newspapers, you can probably even find it on Google or whatever. So the boss entertained the idea, he was talking to Lenny more about possibilities on how to market this new Cheez-It shape. And then after that meeting, Bruce pulls Lenny aside, and he says to Lenny, do you know what you've done? And Lenny said, what do you mean? I just made the Cheez-Its much more sellable. But then Bruce said, yeah, but Cheez-Its are already fucking delicious. If you make them hypnotic so more people get them, it'll be a huge mess. The people eating the Cheez-Its will become rabid with cheese obsessions. World peace, said Lenny. It'll be world peace, of course, because everyone will have their Cheez-Its. And then Bruce said, no, that's not how it's gonna go. I've known about the hypnotism of saltines all along. If you market it a certain way, you can have people buy them. But Cheez-Its already finding their own. They don't need to be more appealing. And they're bite-sized, and you can eat them really quick, and it's really cool. You can have multiple ones at once. If you shape them like saltines, it'll be chaos. So then, a year passes. The Cheez-It company is working on their marketing campaign and their redesign of Cheez-Its. And then Lenny's at the first grocery store where the Cheez-Its would be unveiled. They They had a ribbon cutting ceremony, you know, and all that. It was a grocery store. They didn't have a lot going on besides a ribbon cutting ceremony for a new redesign of crackers. But you know, it's nice to be festive about things, especially with something like Cheez-Its. And they were all very surprised at the crowd that arrived at the grocery store at like 7 a.m. when the store opened. It's just like, yeah, a lot of people are here. It's just like, yeah, like thousands of people are here. It's like thousands? That's right. All here for the Cheez-Its. So when the owner of the grocery store cut the ribbon, the grocery store was flooded with people all going after the Cheez-Its. They pulled it from the shelves, tore the boxes open, and just ate them out of the bag with the plastic. Some people not even opening the box, just eating them whole. Eventually an hour passes, and the entire Cheez-It aisle of the grocery store was devoured. And then Lenny said, oh, Jesus Christ, you know. So many goddamn people went after the Cheez-Its. And Bruce was there too, also at the opening ceremony, because Cheez-Its were his client. He said, nah, this is only the beginning. And Lenny said, what do you mean? You know, they're gonna open these Cheez-Its in stores all around the country and world. And the Cheez-It company's gonna keep manufacturing Cheez-Its in this way. Eventually it'll be a Cheez-It apocalypse. Everyone's swarming for cheese. Cheese will be outdated, you know? And then several years pass, you know? And Bruce's premonition was foretold. Every county in the country and world had its own Cheez-It factory with quick distribution, and all anyone ate was Cheez-Its. Cheez-Its for breakfast, Cheez-Its for lunch, Cheez-Its for dinner. And Lenny just contemplated this new world full of Cheez-Its and whatnot. And he too was also devouring all these saltine-shaped Cheez-Its that have redefined the structures of the world. And then one day he was eating Cheez-Its and he silently thought to himself, I could go for some saltines.
What a lie. No one likes those crackers.
Well, you know what? He hasn't had saltines in a while, and he was just like, oh, I could go for some. I've been eating Cheez-Its a lot. I guess I could switch it up to saltines, but he couldn't because this was a Cheez-It based reality, you know?
Oh my god.
Aliens will come to this world and be all like, so many goddamn Cheez-Its everywhere.
When they go home, go away.
Saltines go home and go
Nobody
away?
in the universe
What?
likes saltines and can be trusted. That's the real conspiracy.
I eat saltines sometimes.
Yeah, I'm watching you.
Okay. Alright. I have them with ramen. I kind of, those... The scenarios of eating saltines were from experience, use them as little cheese sandwiches and all that. It's pretty cool.
No, it's not.
It's not for everyone, If you're in the mood for it, and could be used as a noodle utensil,
I wouldn't be telling the public this. I wouldn't be telling everybody that you.
The cheese, but in premium saltines versus Cheez-Its, the Cheez-Its won,
There's no such thing as premium saltines. They're not premium.
But
they're not anything.
Premium saltines. They have to use the word premium to
They think they
appeal
suck the nutrients out of you. I think by
like a nutrient spot.
You can feel your mouth go dry, and then you feel like the vitamins leaving your bones. So.
I have a lot to contemplate about
Our
saltines.
relationship's pretty stable, but every time I see you read the box, I just kind of question.
Well, I think they're cool. You know what I thought was a fair fight? It was two marketers kind of representing different snack-based crackers. But then Lenny discovered some secrets, used those to get a Cheez-It job, and then chaos ensued.
World peace would happen.
Maybe. I mean, if everyone's eating Cheez-Its all the time, no one has any time to start a war,
Do I get to have another team?
Yes, you do.
Alright. So when my wisdom teeth was pulled out, it gets a lot of strain on my mouth for doing Spook Show and whatnot. So I said this episode would be better, would be special, but I'm having a hard time doing spooking. So
Okay.
if only there is a political dissident who's been speaking out against U.S. foreign policy and affairs for half a century to take over. Welcome to Quarantinespookshow. I'm Noam Chomsky.
I love you, Noam.
I'm gonna try to speak this way loud enough for the mic for the duration of this next story, so that Kyle can rest his wisdom tooth and all that. If you can't hear me speak in the live audience, let me know. I'm gonna try to speak as loudly as I can. In fact, I will readjust this mic. No. No. Okay, let's see how this works out. Now, I've never told a live horror story before with piano accompaniment. I'll do my best to provide as many details as possible, as thorough as possible, and try to spook your pants off. Now, this next story is called Jazz Standards Are Us. Chet Baker once said that playing the trumpet was like an instrument with God, or was like a phone to God. He said this back in a 1972 interview when he was doing some clubs in Seattle. It was a brief radio interview. He spoke a lot of details that he's already shared publicly, except for his drug addiction. But the one thing he did bring up was that trumpets and jazz in totality really was a phone call with God. Everything okay?
Yeah, I just smell burning hair. Everything's fine.
Okay. No. I just wanted to check if everything was up to snuff. Anyway. So, in this interview, I'm gonna read just this mic again. Again, let me know if I'm not speaking loudly enough. It's hard to. No. Aw. Okay. Now, where was I? No. Now, Chet Baker once said, playing the trumpet was like a phone call with God. He said this in a 1972 interview. While he was playing clubs in Seattle. And during this one radio interview, during a Seattle morning jazz show, he revealed a lot of details about his life at the time, things that he's already revealed to the public. But this was the first time that he said that, yes, playing jazz on a trumpet is like being on a phone call with God. And a young Jonathan Banks listened to that interview as a child. And as a child, he loved going to Toys R Us. And he said, one day, I'm going to open my own Toys R Us. But I'm going to do it for jazz. So in the ripe year of 1995, Jonathan Banks opened Jazz R Us. Jazz Standards R Us. Jazz R Us. He originally called it Jazz R Us, but that was there was a copyright infringement due to a jazzercise studio called Jazz R Us. So he had to change it to Jazz Standards R Us. But thank God it was just as catchy. So he started Jazz Standards R Us in 1995. Had a steady stream of business. You know, a lot of musicians were in Seattle at the time. They definitely brought it to a prominent regional business. They had several locations in and around Seattle. One in Seattle, one in Olympia, one in Tacoma. Eventually they unleashed their sprawl upon the U.S. as the decades went on, starting off on more Pacific Northwest locations in prominent cities, then further down the West Coast in California, and then New York, and then the East Coast. And eventually had the prominence that you would think of Guitar Center or Cabela's today. There's a lot of discrepancies on how Jazz Standards R Us was run. Jonathan Banks passed away in 2007. And his 3 children wanted the rights to the store. They fought long and hard for it. Eventually it was passed on to Ashley Banks. She became the proprietor as Jazz Standards R Us. And they sold sheet music, they sold instruments. As jazz fell from popularity as the 21st century came on, they started to sell more rock and pop-based things, and spreading to different genres such as rock and roll and electronic DJs, hip hop, and general pop music. They had a lot of pop songbooks. That was their largest selling project. Not quite the jazz standards that Jonathan Banks envisioned. I need to have a sip of water, It's global crisis, So if you look at Jazz Standards R Us today, you'll see it as just like another music store, again, to the size of Guitar Center or even Cabela's or something like that. Cabela's doesn't sell any music or instruments, except there was a short, brief period of time when the singer of Poison, I don't recall his name at the time, he did a marketing campaign when he appeared at Cabela's to do a signing, and he signed guitars as well. And the guy who wrote Cat Scratch Fever also did that. My area is Ted Nugent. Yeah, he did a. So when Ted Nugent would make appearances at Cabela's, they'd also sell his guitars as well, and that was the only brief instance where Cabela's ever sold any musical instruments for the sake of promoting people that would make appearances at their store if they were musicians. And Ted Nugent had a lot of controversies of his own, just being a stupid asshole, you know. I mean, is he even that good at guitar? I don't know. Who knows? I really don't listen to Ted Nugent enough to criticize his work in depth. I only know fleeting things about him. I really don't even know enough to insult him or make fun of him or anything like that. Of all the things I can speak at length about, Ted Nugent is not one of those things. I am not a horror story composer or writer. I'm a political dissident and linguist. If you have questions about current events, you can call me at Arizona University. So jazz standards are us. Ever since Ashley owned the store, she would always, their headquarters was in Seattle, at their first location where it was first founded. And she'd always say that she would see the ghost of Jonathan Banks haunting the halls, playing he'd be playing the he'd always be playing the ghost of Jonathan Banks would always be playing the Chet Baker version of Autumn in New York. Now Ashley would always claim to see his ghost wandering at night. And when she would recall this story to other people, whether they were employees or other executives in the company, or family that knew Jonathan intimately, or family friends, etc., they'd always say, you know, if you see this Jonathan Banks ghost playing Autumn in New York on the trumpet, how would you know that it's the Chet Baker version? And then Ashley just would look at them and say, I know my jazz standards. But even some employees at this initial Seattle location would claim to see apparitions in the corner of their eye, or perhaps hearing ambient trumpet around the store. The people who would complain about the most were employees that didn't even really like jazz that much, which, you know, who needs them anyway, you know. Needless to say, due to people not wanting to deal with daily spooks, they would quit very often at this Jazz Standards or Us store because despite having its notoriety and having the best selection of jazz-based music needs in the country, there are some exceptions. There's an institute in Berlin that also specializes in jazz. As far as the west of the Mississippi goes, Jazz Standards or Us was the bee's knees. One day, this Seattle location for Jazz Standards or Us hires a new employee named Jimmy. Jimmy with a soft J. No, Jimmy. He was very excited to work with jazz standards or us. He knew the history. He was hoping that someday he could find a way to rise up in the company, become an executive, and or actually produce music for jazz standards or us, and grab him by the bootstraps kind of ambition this young Jimmy had. But in the meantime, he worked as a clerk, selling guitars, selling basses, saxophones, trumpets. And one day, Ashley would always pop by the storefront, and she was getting her trumpet refinished, and Jazz Standards or Us supplied that service. And then Jimmy with a soft J sees the trumpet, and he says, Chet Baker once said that the trumpet is a phone call with God. And then Ashley said, "Oh, you've heard that interview?" And then Jimmy said, "Yeah, I've not only heard that interview, but I've also listened to a number of Studs Terkel's interviews. I just like old radio interviews, I actually work at a community radio station also." And Ashley said, yeah, that's great. Say, how about, are you into ghost hunting at all?" And Jimmy said, "That's pretty an abrupt thing to ask me, someone, a new employee from an executive like yourself working at this company. And then Ashley said, "Well, there's a ghost here. It's the ghost of my father, and he keeps playing Chet Baker on trumpet." If you want to come with me with some ghost hunters, we can try to release my father's soul from the store that he loves so much. If you know Chet Baker, then perhaps you can help us in this endeavor." Now, Jimmy knew about the history of Jazz Standards or Us, but he wouldn't have dreamed that he could have a role in saving the soul of the founder, so he was all in on this endeavor. So that evening, a week afterwards, they meet there at night. It's Ashley, Jimmy, and 3 people who claim to be ghost hunters. And with them they had like a fancy little voice box that was intended to translate white noise to words and other sounds. And Ashley didn't really believe in the technology of this device. And she said, "Oh, we don't really need that. My dad just plays a lot of trumpet." And then they said, "Yeah, well, it's good to have it, just in case, to detect any of the ectoplasm and whatnot." See, what Ashley didn't know is that this device, this tradition goes back as far as 1953, being used to translate white noise, but it's also set to a randomizer as well as a database of languages and whatnot. And with every updated model, it adds more trickery to it. So it was essentially, the device they had with them was a farce in terms of transferring white noise to language. But Ashley or Chet didn't think too much into it. Ashley just wanted to free her father's soul, and Jimmy just wanted to encounter the force that started the enterprise as Jazz Standards or Us. So that night, they're sitting in the storefront, and they're waiting for a spiritual endeavor. And they're waiting for the apparition to appear. then one of the ghost hunters says, let's whip out this white noise device. Perhaps we can jimmy it up and then see if we can get any spook translations. So they turn it on, and it has a lot of cool EDM lights, which doesn't really apply to ghost hunting. So they try to use it, and has just a lot of stray words and sounds coming out of it. Eventually they hear the trumpet down in the clarinet section. It's ambient callings of autumn in New York, just like Ashley described. And then Jonathan Banks' ghost started to fiddle with the piano keys as well, as if it was a cat jumping onto the piano sporadically. The spookiest sound you can find. What do you think Jonathan Banks is trying to say? They all pondered. Oh no, with the piano, maybe he's trying to communicate with us. Or maybe he's just trying to be spooky. Who knows? Well, if he's playing piano this time, maybe he's trying to reach out, not just play the trumpet. So the ghost hunters play their white noise machine, and then really loudly it just says run. And then the ghost hunters are just like, oh, we gotta get out of here. And then Ashley says, no, we gotta find out what my father wants. But they don't care, they just listen to their little voice box machine. It's not really vetted for accuracy and gauging the needs and wants of ectoplasm. So they run out of the store, and it's just Ashley and Jimmy with a soft J in the store. So then Jimmy said, oh, I got an idea. So as quickly as he can, he gets pieces of a drum set, tries to get like a 4-piece drum set together. It's a little bit sloppy and not to his standard. Some drumsticks, and he starts hitting the cymbal and starts to brush on the drums and all that. And then Ashley figures it out that Jonathan doesn't want to haunt anyone or spook anyone. He just wants an ensemble. So Ashley says, yes, of course. So she goes and carries a large wooden base to where she hears the trumpet and to where Jimmy is setting up the drum set. And she's playing a stand-up bass. And they try to play with the jazz sounds that become more apparent. The trumpet gets more vivid the longer they play. And then it occurs to Jimmy with a soft J that Jazz Standards or Us was never about starting an enterprise of musical needs, but about a catalyst for forming beautiful music. And right when he understood that, the sounds of the trumpet dissipated into the air. And then Ashley and Jimmy with a soft J just listened to the sounds of the trumpet go. These cats, they're really at it tonight.
They're really into spooking tonight.
Good, yeah,
Really
yeah.
into spooking.
A lot more difficult speaking in the Chomsky voice for long periods of time.
I was impressed.
I was, yeah, I was too.
Also a little hard. You know how I feel about political dissidents.
Yeah, but this was a jazz-based story.
Oh yeah.
However, if it was a political-based story that was pulled from the hat, it would have gotten really interesting real quick. Just the layers and foundations of studied, observed information, all that jazz. No pun intended.
I had the thought to call out as the story was beginning. Tell us how Toys R Us relates to socialism.
Oh my gosh.
Which
That's what I thought of all the time as a child going to Toys R Us. I was always like, this just seems socialist to me. That I can just try out all these toys and no one's gonna arrest me at all. Like,
I thought I like Toys R Us.
It was so beautiful. We didn't even have to buy anything. I loved just walking Toys R Us when I was a child. It was great.
Yeah.
Now they're no more.
Well, one intention for having Chomsky do that story was to try to include his ways of thinking onto the story, which some of that was in it with the history of jazz standards or us maybe. But yeah. So I think I'm good for one more story, maybe two. But I wasn't.
Don't push it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a lot.
Yeah, they've been. I guess they've also been longer as well.
A little bit longer. Yeah.
Yeah. So I can do one more story, but my wisdom tooth is still hurting, So someone else is gonna have to, take my place in it.
No.
Yeah. If only there was like another musician who can like chip in,
You're a terrible person.
Yes. Yes.
Like you.
This is Johnny Raz from Razzmatazz.
I hate that band.
My tour for being in England and parts of France has been canceled. In the meantime, until after this pandemic and these protests died down a bit, but I'm here for Spooks, though. I don't usually do house shows or podcasts, but totally down for it. Yes. Choking on a little bit. I'll stick with the same key or deviate, one of those two things or whatever. Yeah, let's go with the same key. Alright. This one is called Potato Voice. It's actually a story that happened to me. It was after I did a show with Razzmatazz. We were touring with the band Creepazoid, We've done a lot of shows with them in various bars and clubs. And also moving onward to other larger venues like some shared spots at theaters and all that. This was after playing a show with Creepazoid at the Rock Club, or Rock and Jazz Club, called Boob Nasty. Yes, Boob Nasty is the venue. The band I was with was...
Did you say Boog Nasty?
Boog Nasty.
Okay, just want to make sure.
That is the... I didn't name the club.
Like tits?
Like what?
Boog? Is it tits?
Boog with a G. B-O-O-G.
Oh, sorry.
Nasty.
I heard you wrong. Boog.
That also has a G in front of it.
Boog.
Boog.
Nasty.
Boog Nasty.
Okay.
But the word nasty also has a G in front of it, so they're really like, and they had like two like large G's at the end of the first word and the beginning of the second word. No. I'll show you where the club is sometime. I'll show you on Google Maps, and it's a thing, and we can check it out together when everything reopens, and it's not deadly. So I was playing with Creepazoid and at Boog Nasty. So after the show, we were just like having drinks and whatnot, you know. We had our vans parked outside the venue, and we're just like chatting stuff, shooting the shit, catching up. Probably got more inebriated than I should have. So the bassist of Creepazoid, named Donnie, he also does some vocals for the band. He's just like, hey Raz, you wanna see something cool? And I'm just like, I always wanna see something cool. Yeah, sure. So he takes me to like the back of the van. I didn't know what he was gonna show me, you know. Could be anything between like, you know, like some sort of intoxicant or like baseball cards, you know. Whatever sort of obsession you took with you on the road, you know, I guess. So then we go into his van, and he has like this crumpled up, very large tube sock. He unrolls it, and then he pulls something out of it. And it's a potato. And I'm just like, oh, okay, potatoes are cool. It's already starting to like sprout a little bit, you know. Guess he had it for a while. And then, you know, Donnie's just like, isn't it cool, isn't it? And I'm just like, Donnie, it's a cool potato, but it's a very cool potato. Very badass and cool. Should be in a museum. And he's just like, no, but listen to it. Is it making sounds? And he's just like, yeah, listen. And I'm just like, put my ear to it. And he says, no, put your ear closer. And I'm still listening for a bit. And I'm just like, dude, is this John the Baptist's head? I don't fucking hear anything. And he's just like, no, you gotta listen to it, man. And I'm just like, alright, my ear's still at it. Waiting a little bit for something to happen. Or if being spooked out or something, or you know, if it's like one of those like fake out computer things, but it's just like, oh, look at this fine real estate living room. Then you stare at it for a minute, and it's just like, oh, look for a missing thing in it, and then you stare at it, and like a spooky image of like a zombie pops up. It scared the hell out of me as a 6th grader, but this is a different scenario. So I'm listening to it, not hearing anything, and suddenly I feel like a nip at like my earbud. And like my inner ear, and I'm just like, whoa. And he was just like, oh yeah, cool, right? And I'm just like, what the hell was that? And he was just like, no, but didn't you hear it though? And I was just like, no, it just something like pinched me in the inner ear, like felt like my eardrum popped, but like it kind of didn't. And he was just like, oh no, that wasn't what I was talking about, you know. Oh shoot, alright, I'm sorry, man. I guess I'm just hearing things, you know? And I was just like, it's okay, Donnie. But, yeah, I don't, yeah. But it was definitely a while after that, since I put my ear to, like, a vegetable fruit product. Unless I want to hear the screams of plants that, aren't having enough to drink, which the human ear can't hear. But I've met some people who are like, I swear I can hear it. And I'm just like, okay, you know. If humans did hear it, I think that drastically changed the way how people treated plants. That's my 2 cents, you know. So anyway, there was another day that following week where Razzmatazz was doing a show. It was just a bar show in the Florida room. And you know, we're just doing a pretty short set. little bit dizzy for some reason. I don't fully understand why. I'm trying to play guitar, but I'm seeing like three fretboards at the same time, and I'm just like, I don't know which note to play. There's so many fretboards, but I was multiple fretboards because my vision was being distorted. But yeah, by my standard, it was a pretty shitty show ultimately. So, you know, afterwards, I was just like having a drink, just didn't want to think about it, and just kind of, you know, put my energy in putting on the next show, having that being good. So I think if you have a bad show, you should get to the next show as quickly as possible so you're not too down on yourself as a performer, etc., you know. But in the meantime, I was just like sipping on some gin. And I was just, you know, sitting and whatnot, just contemplating life and all that jazz. Thinking maybe I'll run by Jazz Standards or Us, maybe pick up a songbook or something just to refresh myself, maybe a book of chords to keep me on my toes. But then this dude next to me is having a burger and fries. And then I just hear in a very like meek voice, "Don't eat me," and I'm just like, what the hell is that? And then I hear a scream, and then and I was just like, that was weird. And then again I hear it, "Oh shit, don't eat me," and I'm just like, what the hell is that? And then I hear the second voice again, it's just like, "No," and I was just like, it's fucking weird. So I look at the dude eating the burger and fries, and I see that the sound is coming from his bucket of fries. And when he picks up a fry, I hear a sound from the fry that says, "Don't eat me," and then when he takes a bite out of the fry, it screams, and the scream disappears because it's in his mouth and it's going down his gullet. So I'm just like, can I communicate with potatoes now? I guess that's cool, but like, is that useful? Can we bridge an alliance between humans and potatoes to, you know, to bridge the gap between humans and vegetables and with animal life as well, you know? Provide a better future for the rest of humankind and for going to space and stuff. So when the aliens come, it's just like, see, we're not assholes. We're getting along with our plants and stuff. I don't know. At the time, I was just like, I don't know if I want to talk to potatoes. I don't want that responsibility, you know. Never saw myself as a potato spokesperson, you know. There's a lot of responsibility in that. So eventually I call Donnie from Creepazoid, and I'm just like, "Hey Donnie, so like when you showed me that potato, I don't know, I think it like infected my ear or whatever, and I can like hear potatoes now, you know, like I tried to have a baked potato and it was just like screaming in the microwave. That made me feel bad, you know." So it's just like, yeah, you gotta, I don't know, what was the deal with that potato? That's what I was getting at. And he was just like, "Oh, so you have the gift now?" And I was just like, "The gift?" And he was like, "Yeah, you have the same gift I do. The potato has blessed you. Now you too can chat with potatoes." And I was just like, I don't know if I want to have this grand esoteric ability, you know. I mean, potatoes are cool and all. I'm sure they have a lot of wisdom to bestow upon humans. But I've already dedicated my life to music and art. I don't think I have enough room on my docket for, you know, bridging the gap between humans and potatoes. Yeah. Potato whisperer. And I was like, wait, where'd that come from? Then I saw there was a potato in my fridge. There was a potato in there that said potato whisperer, and I was just like, so I closed the fridge again, and I'm just like, fuck, I'm like surrounded by potatoes. I can't have a moment's peace, because you never know when a potato's around. And then Donnie's just like, what are you talking about? And I was just like, nothing. Look, I don't want to talk I don't want to talk to potatoes anymore. can we undo it? Is that a thing that can happen, or am I just doomed to have this profound gift, or what? And he was just like, well, since you do have the gift, now you can hear what that potato was saying, from earlier, from when we did that show, a week back. And I was like, yeah, I know. That's why I'm calling you, because this happened after that. And he was just like, alright, just come by my place. I just live across town, probably a 20-minute drive from where you're at. Just, come by, we'll hang out, have drinks, and I'll explain more potato-based things. And I was like, okay. So I go to his house, he lets me in, he gives me a beer, and I'm just like, oh, I'm not crazy about this beer. And I was just like, oh, well, it doesn't have potatoes in it. I was just like, does everything have potatoes? And he was just like, well, kind of. It's like, that's not like corn, but like you can find potatoes in a lot of things. I look in his fridge, and I'm just like, god damn, you have like no food in here. And he's just like, yeah, I don't want potatoes and stuff. He says, I know he was saying that he had too much respect for potatoes to eat them. And I was just like, well, if I could hear them all the time, yeah, I guess that makes sense, But anyway, what's the deal with the potato that you showed me? With the sprouts, the one that nipped my ear? He was just like, yeah, I'll pull it out. So, he goes into his room, and I sip some beer that he gave me. He's still in his room, so I have more beer. Comes out with the rolled up tube sock. So then he unrolls it, brings out the potato that has even stronger sprouts now, and he's just like, yeah, listen to it. And I was just like, okay, let's go. So we both put our ears toward it. And then the potato says, soon our plan to attack shall commence shortly. And then the potato goes on about all of its plans, all the alliances it has with humans around the world, with other planets, really having really big dreams about a human takeover, essentially, And I was just like, Donnie, what the fuck is this? And he's just like, what? And I was just like, this fucking potatoes trying to like take over the earth. And he's just like, oh yeah, well, I mean, that's still cool. And I was just like, why is that cool? And he's just like, well, it's like a talking potato. Like, that's kind of nuts though, right? I mean, like, I don't know, what's the potato gonna do? And I was just like, dude, he has like alliances and shit, and it's like, I don't want to deal with this potato politics, And he's just like, well, he's talking about like other vegetables and animals and like fruit and stuff, and it's just like, yeah, a lot of life forms on Earth are trying to take over, but the humans just are the ones that like kind of succeeded a little bit, so they're just trying to like knock the humans off their throne, And I was just like, dude, I don't know if I want to deal with potatoes, And he's just like, all right, maybe talk to the potato, and maybe he'll try to like relinquish your ability to speak to potatoes or something, I don't know. So then he presents the potato on the table like it's, and I'm just like, okay, potato, I don't want to, whatever you gave me so that I could communicate with you, I no longer want that ability, so if you can take that away from me, I think that will be peachy keen. But the potato's still going on about, different star systems and traveling the galaxy and stuff. And also just like some subterranean creatures bellowing beneath the earth that it's been chatting to, because potatoes grow from the ground, so they have insight to that. And then I said to Donnie, just like, Donnie, I'm trying to reason with this potato, but he's not really hearing me. And he's just like, oh, well, You know what it is? You know what it is? What I just realized? We can hear potatoes, but potatoes can't hear us. And I was just like, well, that's kind of bullshit, you know? I mean, like, it's all about communication, right? You know, if we can hear them, but they can't hear us. And he was just like, no, but that's the advantage, though. See, we have the upper hand on the potatoes. And I was just like, I don't want to deal with potatoes, like, for a while. I just don't want to, you know, hear their voices and stuff. And he's just like, alright, well, I guess I don't really know what to do about it. And I was just like, well, okay. So eventually I just kind of learned how to ignore them. I don't know. I mean, I don't... Look, that's...
Moral of the story.
Yeah, I mean, that story doesn't have a lot of closure, but just, like, not all problems...
Potatoes don't...
Not all problems have solutions, you know? I don't really,
They don't have all the closure either, because they have all those eyes and no eyelids.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
That's fucking creepy.
That's probably uncomfortable, you know?
It's really uncomfortable, I imagine.
Yeah. Yeah, so I don't know.
Ah, I like that one.
Yeah, I was... Well, I didn't. I keep hearing
think it
potatoes
works.
nonstop, you know? I don't know. It's bonkers, you know? I don't know.
Bonkers.
Yes.
Potato voices.
Yes. Yeah, it's...
I had a student today who
Mhm.
said they felt hungover, but they hadn't done anything other than just not drink or smoke or anything, just went to bed on time, and they woke up feeling awful, and they said to me, I'm going to have a potato voice. I'm going to have a voice like a potato.
I know.
And I was like, what is that even? I didn't question it, but I also just instantly knew what they were talking about.
I mean, it's got... There's...
Potato voice.
I mean, like, for... I don't know if people still do this, but for a while, when people would refer to, like, you know, like, low computer power, people would say, like, oh, it has the power of a potato, you know? That was... That used to be a way to describe, like,
Yeah.
weak computer usage.
Yeah.
So I guess that still lingers as just, like, a low-quality thing. But if
I
you look up the, you know, the potato...
Well, potato clocks.
But, like, potatoes, like, matter, you know? They feed a lot of people, you know?
Okay, you know what? You didn't need to go there. You didn't need to be all.
Listen,
potatoes
I'm
matter.
listening to these potatoes,
Somebody's
man.
processing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, potatoes matter, huh?
They
I don't really think that's the point.
Oh.
I don't really think we need to make that be a slogan.
I'm not making it a slogan. Potatoes lives matter.
Damn right you're not making it a
I'm
slogan.
not. I am not.
You're a terrible person, Raz. You're terrible. Why don't you go back to France?
Well, because it was stranded there, you know?
Yeah, we like it that way.
Oh. I was thinking about doing one more spook, but
Oh.
maybe.
I thought you were retired. I thought you were gonna only have one more spook.
I can
Are
do...
you having one more spook?
I can do one more spook, or I guess I'll call it now. I'm getting my throat's getting raspy.
Yeah, be good to your voice.
All right, that's Quarantine Spook Show. Good night.